Marie Laveau is a name that has become almost synonymous with the mystique of New Orleans. Known as the Voodoo Queen, she was a powerful figure in 19th century Louisiana, whose influence spanned both black and white communities alike. Born around 1801, Laveau's life is a fascinating tale of spirituality, healing, and cultural resilience that continues to shape the unique identity of New Orleans. Marie Laveau was born to a Creole mother and a free black father in the French Quarter of New Orleans, a city already rich in cultural diversity and spiritual traditions. Her father was Charles Laveau Trudeau, a wealthy Creole businessman, which offered Marie an unusual social position for a black woman in the South. Growing up as a free woman of color, she had more opportunities than most African Americans of the time, though she still faced the racial prejudices and legal restrictions of the era. The Louisiana of her childhood was deeply Catholic, yet African traditions and beliefs thrived among the enslaved and free black populations. These beliefs included practices that would evolve into what we now know as voodoo, or Vodou, a blend of African spirituality, Catholic rituals, and Native American traditions. New Orleans voodoo itself became a syncretic faith, merging different spiritual practices and adapting to new surroundings, a resilience that characterized Laveau's life and influence. Laveau practiced voodoo at a time when the religion was both feared and misunderstood by the white establishment, which often equated it with witchcraft or even rebellion. However, she ingeniously integrated elements of Catholicism, making it more accessible and less intimidating to people of various backgrounds. This hybrid approach allowed her to bridge the gap between the traditional African spiritual practices of enslaved and free black communities and the mainstream Catholic faith. Laveau's religious practices included the use of Catholic symbols, such as crosses, candles, and holy water, in her voodoo rituals. For instance, she often evoked Catholic saints in her ceremonies, which helped people find common ground between the two faiths. By blending these religious elements, she fostered a form of spirituality that resonated with people of different races and social classes. Her services took place in both the St. Louis Cathedral, where she was a devoted parishioner, and Congo Square, a meeting ground where African traditions were celebrated every Sunday. Marie Laveau rose to prominence as a voodoo priestess in the 1830s, at a time when New Orleans was home to a vibrant community of voodoo practitioners. What set Laveau apart was her deep compassion and remarkable knowledge of herbal medicine, spirituality, and community dynamics. She wasn't just a religious figure, she was a healer, a confidant, and a social mediator. People from all walks of life, from slaves to wealthy white aristocrats, sought her advice and services. She offered counsel on personal matters, including love, health, family disputes, and legal issues. Her services were often kept secret by her wealthy white clients, who would clandestinely seek her help despite society's stigmas against both her race and religion. One of Laveau's most notable talents was her ability to use herbs, charms, and amulets to bring relief and protection to those in need. She was a skilled herbalist, and her gris bags, a blend of herbs, roots, and sometimes small charms, became her hallmark. These talismans were said to protect against negative influences, bring luck in love, or shield from legal troubles. Laveau's healing abilities extended to physical ailments as well, and she often treated illnesses in an era when medical care was largely inaccessible to the poor and marginalized. Marie Laveau's power extended beyond her spiritual practices. Her reputation was built on both real acts and whispered legends. While she was indeed a devoted practitioner, many stories about her life are clouded by myth, adding to her mystique. Some tales claimed she had magical powers or could curse her enemies, while others suggested she had an almost supernatural influence over the city. One story often told about Laveau involves the case of a wealthy man's son who was facing execution. According to legend, she placed a snake, believed to be a powerful voodoo symbol, in the courtroom, supposedly ensuring his acquittal. Whether or not these stories are true, they reveal how much people in New Orleans believed in her influence. Laveau's intimate understanding of New Orleans society also played a role in her power. She was said to have a vast network of informants, which allowed her to stay informed about people's personal lives, secrets, and ambitions. This knowledge gave her an edge in her dealings with both the elite and the marginalized, reinforcing her aura of mystery and power. Beyond her reputation as a voodoo queen, Marie Laveau was known for her acts of kindness and generosity. She provided free services to those who couldn't afford to pay, such as healing the sick and helping the poor. During yellow fever epidemics, she risked her own health to care for the ill, and she was instrumental in helping many enslaved people secure their freedom, either through her influence or by raising funds. Laveau also served as a kind of social mediator, helping bridge the racial divide by gaining the trust of both black and white communities. At a time when racial tensions were high, she maintained a delicate balance, showing compassion to those on the fringes of society while discreetly assisting the wealthy and powerful. Her work built a sense of unity and mutual respect across social and racial lines, making her an enduring symbol of resilience and acceptance in a divided society. Marie Laveau had 15 children with Jacques Paris, her first husband, and later with Christophe Glapion, her long-term partner. Her eldest daughter, also named Marie, followed in her mother's footsteps, adopting the title of Voodoo Queen after her mother's death. Known as Marie Laveau VI, she inherited both her mother's knowledge and her influence, continuing the family's legacy of spiritual leadership in New Orleans. Marie Laveau II was known for her more theatrical style, holding elaborate ceremonies and celebrations that were popular among locals. She lacked her mother's deep community ties, but maintained the family's voodoo traditions, adapting them to a more public persona. The transition between Marie Laveau I and II also contributed to the blending of reality and myth in the Laveau legend, as both women's identities sometimes fused in the popular imagination. Marie Laveau passed away in 1881, yet her legacy has only grown over the years. The St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 in New Orleans, where she is said to be buried, remains a pilgrimage site for those who wish to honor her spirit or seek her blessing. Visitors often leave offerings at her tomb, such as coins, candles, and even the infamous XXX, markings that are said to grant wishes when made with the right reverence. Her life has inspired countless books, movies, and songs, cementing her place in popular culture. The image of Marie Laveau as the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans captures the blend of mysticism, resilience, and cultural fusion that defines New Orleans itself. Marie Laveau's story is a reminder of the power of faith, community, and cultural resilience. She embodied a spirit of compassion and empowerment that helped bridge social divides, offering hope and healing to those in need. As both a spiritual leader and a cultural icon, Laveau's life represents the complexity of New Orleans and the enduring strength of its people. In honoring Marie Laveau, we acknowledge a legacy that goes beyond legend. She represents the heart of New Orleans, rich, vibrant, and resilient. Her story reminds us that sometimes true power comes not from mysticism, but from compassion, connection, and the courage to be oneself in a world that often demands otherwise.